So we are in the beginning of May and we have been getting a lot of rain. So I've been trying to harden off my seedlings outside for 2 weeks, and today is sunny and really nice, and the rain has held off for a couple days. But we do have a lot of rain coming up in the forecast. So I wanted to go ahead and start planting all of my tomato plants, and I do have some peppers that I have in here, and I didn't know if I was going to get to the peppers today or not, but I ended up actually planting them later on. But I filmed all of the tomato part, and I got my little lawnmower trailer out and packed up all of my seedlings into it. It's just a lot easier. I can't really get a four-wheeler or a lawnmower through these garden rows, so I had to do this by hand. If I would have done this garden over, I would have totally thought about making the walking paths a little bigger so I could get either a four-wheeler or a lawnmower through here that was hooked up to this little trailer, but it is what it is. I can do this by hand. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to start placing different varieties. I'm trying to keep some of the varieties together while placing these all out. And I'm just trying to see where I want everything, like my slicing tomatoes and my canning tomatoes and all of that. So I'm just digging a hole here, and I like to plant my tomatoes really deep, almost touching the leaves on the plant. And I try not to have the soil touching the leaves just because it will start to disease, and I don't want that to happen early on with my tomato plants. So I planted all of these, and once I planted them with each plant, I made sure to fertilize and water them really well because today was really hot. This was early morning. I like to plant early morning or evening. I don't like to plant during the day because the sun gets really too hot and it just stresses the plant. So this was early morning, and I just started planting as fast as I could. This took me a couple hours to actually plant all of this because I think there's 23 containers for me to plant. So in one of my previous videos I mentioned that my tomato plants did not do very well this year for some reason, but I'm really hoping once these get in the buckets they will turn around and start taking off. They look a little better than they have been doing from the sun. The sun has really helped them kind of just perk up. So here, looking at this tomato plant, I like to take some of the lower leaves off so I can plant them as deep as I can. So I'm just literally taking those off, and I'll take it out of the container and plant them as deep as I can, but not touching the other leaves, like the soil. You don't want the soil touching the other leaves, or even whenever it rains or anything like that, you don't want the soil splashing up on the leaves. So I'm trying to get it as deep as I can. So like I said, I made sure that they were immediately watered as soon as I planted them because it was a little warm this morning, and some of the tomatoes were kind of drying out in their own little soil pack. So I needed to fertilize anyways. I usually fertilize either every week or every other week. Tomato plants are very heavy feeders, so you have to keep up on feeding your tomatoes because they really need, all that nutrition. So one thing that I actually did do differently this year was I tried to plant a new cover crop that I've never planted before. And I planted hairy vetch, and they say to plant hairy vetch 6 weeks before you plan on planting your tomato plants. And you at least need 2 weeks to terminate that cover crop. So I planted hairy vetch very, very early, and it actually grew really well. And what I did was 2 weeks before I decided to plant out my tomatoes, I terminated it. And I wanted to give it exactly 2 weeks to kill off and decompose back into the soil. By hand, I ripped out this hairy vetch, and then I put it into a wheelbarrow. And then I ended up taking my shovel and turning over, kind of like you would do tilling. So I turned over the roots and just kind of mixed the cover crop into the soil. And then I took all the stuff that was in the wheelbarrow and put it back on top of the soil so everything could completely kind of kill out for 2 weeks. So today is actually 2 weeks that I terminated all of that cover crop. So this is the 2-week mark. I'm planting my tomato plants, and I'm actually excited to see how well this cover crop has done, because this cover crop is supposed to add nitrogen back into your soil, and that's what basically your tomato plants really need, is that nitrogen. So I'm excited to actually see how well this hairy vetch and terminating it and see what it does throughout this season. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I kept all of these containers next to the tomatoes that I planted because they have the names of the tomatoes on those cups. So I'm going around and making sure that I write down on my map of each variety of where I planted it. It's just so much easier if I put it on a piece of paper, because if I label these outside, the rain will wash it off. So it's just easier to put this on a piece of paper inside my house and keep it with my gardening stuff, so I can go back and see what variety actually does better than the other. I've been doing this for years now, trying to figure out what tomato variety that I actually really like. So I did end up planting my pepper plants, so I'm really glad that I got all of this done in one day. Now everything is completely out of my greenhouse, and I don't have to take care of anything that's in the greenhouse anymore. So I have everything in this big main garden planted. Now I still got like some flowers and squash and all that kind of stuff to plant still, but my main stuff that was in the greenhouse is completely cleared out. And these pepper plants desperately needed to get into the ground, and I put some basil, and I put 3 leftover tomato plants at the very end of the row down here. You can see down here I have just 3 tomato plants. I'm going to see how well they do in ground this year, and everything just looks really good. So another project that we wanted to start working on was pulling out our dishwasher. Now, I do not like dishwashers. I believe washing everything by hand is so much faster for me. And it seems like whenever I go to use the dishwasher, something happens, like it breaks down or it just starts, collecting water in the bottom or something. So I just wanted to completely remove it and use it as storage because we have a very small house. Now, this isn't completely finished right here, but I was just kind of seeing where my pots and pans were going to lay in these cabinets and if I was going to have enough room. But whenever I did stain everything, it turned out really nice. Now, the stain smell gave me a migraine for 2 days. I was actually kind of just not looking forward to staining this cabinet, but if anybody knows me, I like to get things done. So the next day, after my husband trimmed all of it out and finished it, I stained it really fast and I put a fan on it and opened up all the windows. We actually were having really beautiful days outside where I actually could have all the windows open so all the smell could go out. So it took a couple days for this to dry because I put a fan on it, and then I ended up putting some liners inside of here just to help, if it wasn't completely dry, it would stay off my pots. But I did really well, I feel like, with matching the color of our previous cabinets. Now this is totally different wood. We got oak on the previous cabinets, and then this, I believe, is just like a pine. So I feel like I did a really good job at matching the colors of the stain. I know in person it looks a lot better than on camera, but it turned out really nice. I really like how it's like a farmhousey look, and the curtain really just pulled everything together. Now, I've already had these curtains. I use these curtains over my kitchen sink windows in the wintertime to keep the cold out, so I already had these curtains, so I might as well just use them. The only thing I need to do is hem up the bottoms because I don't want people walking all over them, and then this is right by my sink, so this is where we wash our hands, and I just don't want it to get wet. So I think it turned out really cute though. Okay, so it is strawberry season right now, and we have been picking a small bowl of strawberries every day. And what I've been doing, which I've been doing this for a couple of years now, is I will bring the strawberries inside, wash them up, trim off the tops, cut them in half, and then I'll get these sheet pans and put parchment paper on them, and then I will flash freeze them for at least 24 hours. So the next day I will take them out and I will weigh them to 1 pound, and then I will vacuum seal them. I feel like weighing out these strawberries to 1 pound or any type of pounds, you just know for future recipes, like if you want to make jams or anything, you know exactly how much these weigh. I also feel like these hold up a lot longer in the freezer doing it this way instead of using just a regular gallon size Ziploc bag, because usually if you use a gallon Ziploc bag, they usually get freezer burnt eventually. So this year I had to not only pick our strawberry patch, but I had to go over and pick my brother and sister-in-law's strawberry patch because they were out of town. So they said I actually could have their strawberries, but I ended up freezing all of their strawberries for them and giving it back to them. So between both of our farms, they got 4 pounds, and then I ended up getting 5 pounds so far, and we're still picking every day. So I thought that was a pretty good little haul. You wouldn't think that a small bowl would give you this many in like 5 days, but I feel like I get like a pound a day when I go out there and pick. So I feel like picking strawberry variety is kind of like how it was with my tomato plants. I just grow different ones every year just to see which ones I like. And what I found was this year I really like Sure Crop. It's called Sure Crop, and it definitely lives up to its name. It produces a ton of berries, and they're good size, and if you let them fully ripe on the vine, they taste so good. So if you're ever wanting to try a good strawberry crop, try Sure Crop. So this next day we started harvesting some of our broccoli. Now I will say broccoli has been such a challenge for me to grow every year. I've grown the same variety for a couple years, and I don't know why I haven't just tried a different variety, but this year I actually tried a different variety. And I will say that I actually got a bigger harvest this year than I did the previous years, but it's still, my broccoli heads are still not as big as I want them to be. Some of these are bolting, as you can see, because we do get hot days. But we only got like a small bowl's worth, like a one night's dinner worth so far, and I'm gonna see what kind of side shoots produce, but it's nothing that I can just store up for winter time like I was hoping. But I'm not gonna give up growing broccoli because I just want to keep challenging myself. It's kind of like my tomatoes and strawberry varieties. You just gotta keep growing different varieties to see what grows best in your area, and I know one day I will find a good variety that will grow here in our zone. So I'm just proud of what we actually grew this year. I will say that I didn't battle the worms like I did last year, so that is a positive thing. So I'm very proud of the broccoli that we grew this year. We're going to eat it. So this is what it looks like. So then we moved on to cauliflower. I need to start banding up our cauliflower. And what banding really means is, which we use clothespins, but we take all the leaves that's around the cauliflower when it starts to form, and we close up the cauliflower so the sun doesn't start turning the cauliflower yellow. Now some of them have started turning yellow, so I was like, oh, I knew immediately that we needed to start banding them up. So we just literally take the outside of the leaves and fold them in and put the clothespin on them just to keep the sun off of them until it's time to harvest. We'll start harvesting probably really soon, but I'm so excited because we got so many cauliflower this year. But if you guys enjoyed this video, I really appreciate you guys being here, and if you like and subscribe to our channel, it really helps us out and it helps get our videos out there. So I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, but we will see you guys on the next video.